Okay, we'll get started. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to the April 19th, 2018 Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. First item on our agenda today is a discussion item for Asuna Ifkovitz subdivision. Hope I pronounced that right. You did. Okay, if you could just let us know who you are for the record.
Pete Ifkovitz?
Sorry, yes,
All right.
Did you get it?
yes.
All right, so the planning department's received and reviewed a minor subdivision application, which is seeking to create two separate building lots from an existing 0.56 acre parcel. The two newly created parcels would have lot sizes of 12,000 square feet and 12,600 square feet respectively. We've received a subdivision map prepared and stamped by Harold Tranchen Jr., land surveyor, last dated September 26, 2017. The proposed minor subdivision will result in the creation of two lots, which are a substandard size for the RB80 zoning district in which it's located. This will require relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The existing structures on the property, there are some setbacks which will become non-conforming as a result of the proposed subdivision. So they will also require relief from that. And they will also require relief from impervious coverage on the newly created lot that is presently improved with the single-family house. Any of these variances and relief must be received by the applicant prior to any planning board approval of the subdivision application. Subject parcel is located at 81 Beach Road in Wading River. As I stated, it's a 0.56 acre parcel located within the RB80 zoning use district. As the parcel presently exists, it has frontage on both Beach Road and Herod Point Road, as you can see in Figure 1 on the staff report on page 2. The parcel is presently approved with a two-story single-family residence with a wooden deck, detached frame garage, and a hot tub on a concrete pad. The proposed minor subdivision application is a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA. No further environmental review required. There are existing structures on the property. Building department records indicate that there was a building permit issued in 1973 for an addition to the existing single-family residence. That addition was issued a certificate of occupancy in 1974. However, there are no other records or COs or letters of pre-existing use for the house itself or for the detached garage in the property. Staff recommends that prior to the planning board approval of the subdivision application, that the applicant must request inspections and receive LPEUs for all structures on the property, just in order to maintain the most accurate, up-to-date records on the property. The parcel is located entirely within the Riverhead Water District, extension number 35. The existing single-family residence is connected to public water via an 8-inch water main, which is located on Beach Road. There is also an 8-inch water main, which is located on Herod Point Road, which would be able to serve the newly created lot. Access to the site is currently taken from Beach Road. There's an asphalt driveway. If the subdivision is approved, it's presumed that the new lot would be given a Herod Point address, and access would be taken off of Herod Point Road. Any curb cut obviously would need a curb cut permit from the Town of Riverhead Highway Department. There were some minor issues with the title report. We're going to require new legal descriptions. There was also a minor oversight on the actual subdivision map. It was missing some meets and bounds. Those issues will need to be corrected prior to subdivision approval, but because the applicant requires some variances and there will be a public hearing, I don't see that there's any reason why they can't address those issues in the time leading to that. The proposed subdivision application will require approval from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services prior to filing the map with any county departments, Suffolk County Clerk, or Suffolk County Real Property Tax Agency. If it's approved, the map must be filed with the Suffolk County Real Property Tax Service, as well as the Suffolk County Clerk. And referral of the application to the Suffolk County Planning Commission was not required, so it was not referred, so we don't have comments from them.
Do we have to deny this so that they can go to zoning, or can it be concurrent with?
It's, the chief building inspector will issue his denial letter, which will allow them to go to the ZBA.
Okay.
So the two can run concurrently. I do have a public hearing resolution scheduled here. Due to the posting times and everything, it's not gonna be until June, so they've got some time to be able to address any of the issues.
You think they'll get on zoning before then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just curious, have you made applications to the health department?
Plan on doing it next week.
Please do.
Yes.
That's real time.
That takes a few months as well.
There's nothing on this lot now?
Correct, unimproved. And when they do go for the zoning board of appeals, the subdivision map does indicate proposed setbacks to give them a building envelope. They'll also receive relief for those setbacks, just so they can knock out everything all at once.
And it looks like the lot sizes are consistent for that whole area, right?
Yeah, there was a merger history on the property. When this was first developed and broken out, there were these little 1,000-square-foot lots that people would buy, 1 or 2 or 3. You can kind of see where it was.
That's what it looks like, the whole neighborhood looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting history up there, so. They basically had, 7 or 8 lots back here that were merged, and then they merged with the other parcels.
They're still gonna be twice as big as most of the lots
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
Does the board have any other questions?
Probably gonna have to improve the septic system on your lot.
Yes, we were told about that. We have
You know that.
plans en route for that too.
Just wait till they tell you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Board have any other questions?
No, we'll do the public hearing and get you zoning, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good day.
Great, thank you. Greg, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why do you schedule a public hearing? We know they got it as opposed to the next, which is gonna take time.
The public hearing wasn't until June, so there's,
Can we get out of ZBA by then?
even if they can still have the public hearing.
What can we do? Can we close it? Do we have to reopen?
Talk with the Gaylors on that.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Sir's Ventures LLC, Pulaski Street Industrial Park.
So basically, this is a application to modify the original site at the northeast corner of Pulaski Street and Columbus Avenue. It's in the industrial C zoning district and is developed with 4 buildings. Three roadways run along the property. You have Pulaski Street to the south, Columbus Avenue to the west, and Parkway Street to the north. There are 3 curb cuts, one on each roadway. Uses directly adjacent to the site include several residences to the east, and across the roadways include Riverhead Building Supply, the Town Water District to the south, and Stocksky Park to the west. There's another commercial use to the north. So does everybody have the report, or does anybody need a copy? If you would like to follow along, on page 2, you can see the aerial view of the parcel. The bottom picture shows the front of building number 4, which is to be connected to sewers as part of this application. On page 3, the top picture shows the gravel area, that's to be converted to asphalt parking. And you see the back of building 4 to the left, that's to be equipped with an overhead door and apron and apparent loading berths. Part of the gravel area was fenced in, and that's, like I said, going to be converted to asphalt parking area. The bottom picture shows the buffer to the residential use to the east. And just some more pictures on page 4. Figure 5 is just various views of the sidewalk that's in poor condition along Pulaski Street. Figure 6 shows that the existing handicap parking striping is very faded, and figure 7 shows that one of the dumpster enclosures that is presently there cannot enclose all of the dumpsters that are in use. Just to give a little bit of background, the building proposed to be hooked up to sewers was issued a CO in 1969. A site plan for 1074 Pulaski Street LLC, which is this property, was approved by the town board in 2005. That site plan approved the construction of 2 14,400 square foot industrial buildings. Those are the 2 to the north. An amended site plan was approved by the planning board in 2009, and the resolution indicates it was to change the uses in those 2 buildings and for installation of additional parking. The site plan approved in 2009 included replacement of some of the industrial warehouse space with other uses that are allowed in Industrial C, such as recreational and office, such as Safari Adventure, Fusion Wellness, and Apria Healthcare. Subsequent to that, a final as-built survey was approved by the planning board in 2011 for departures from the approved site plan. That survey shows significantly less parking than the approved site plan. The 2009 site plan showed 104 stalls, and 64 were shown on the survey. I'm not sure exactly why there was that reduction. We did have a pre-submission meeting in 2015 with the applicant regarding possibly using building number 4, which is to be hooked up for sewers, as a microbrewery. It was indicated that updated parking calculations would be needed based on present uses. I'm not sure if that was just dropped or what have you. Also, just to say that in addition to modifications that I'll get into a little bit more later, a stop work order was issued for removal of trees and vegetation along Parkway Street. So this site plan would address issues regarding that. The initial plan showed approximately the eastern half of the woods along Parkway Street to be removed and the western half of the woods to remain. Subsequent to that, the notice of violation was issued. And then we got another revision on the plans showing 4 existing trees to remain and proposed landscaping with shrubs to the west, and then Leland cypress to the east. Also, the site plan shows new plantings along the northern side of the building. So there were plans shown there originally, so I'm not sure if they were removed at this point, because this plan shows new landscaping. As far as uses goes, the application listed the use of the site as industrial park, and the uses as industrial. However, there are other uses there that are allowed in Industrial C, such as recreational and office. So the application really should be accurate as to the uses. Also, we don't know the proposed use of the building to be hooked up to sewers, so that should be clarified. As far as what's being proposed, the modifications, a chain link fence enclosed part of the stone area. They're looking to remove that, put in parking stalls, curbing along the area, to add a overhead door at the rear of building 4, a concrete apron, and 3 extra long parking stalls adjacent to it, which looks like they would be loading berths, and a concrete dumpster pad with some sort of fencing. So I did go into, comments on the site plan on pages 7 and 8. I don't know if the board wants me to go through all of those, or if the applicant or his engineer have any specific questions. But,
I'm doing this because you're gonna occupy building 4, is that the idea?
Say it again?
This whole thing is because you're gonna do.
No. Originally, I wanted to pave to create more parking. This area, which originally in the site plan was pervious, and I wanted to change it to impervious. Came to the building department in February of last year. They denied me because I would need a variance. I was granted that variance in March 23rd of last year, okay? I then went back to the building department and said I'd like a permit to pave this. Prior to that, and before I went to the variance board, Tom created a plan which would take the drainage that was necessary from the impervious, and he added a pool, which was what was necessary to handle the water. I was told, at that point, you need to go for site plan. So I said, okay, it sounds very strange. I'm taking a parking lot, which was originally approved, and I want to pave it so that I can snow plow it, do all the things. So normally, I would not create a parking lot without a curb. This is a building that we bought 2 years ago. It's in total disrepair. It had occupants without COs, had no sprinkler systems in one of the buildings. Since then, we have sprinklered the building. We have closed all the COs. So we have COs for every use in this building, okay?
All 4.
This has always been a dry storage place by a moving company. They still occupy this space and this space. That's what they occupied when we purchased it. Since then, Matt's Heating has moved into here, and we've gotten a use permit for them and CO. And this building is Gymnasium and Party Rental. They both have COs and use permits. This building was already occupied with Safari and, what's it called? Apria, okay, and they were the current tenants. So since we've purchased this building, we've put in fire sprinklers. We've each and every year cleaned up the buildings. We've replaced roofs. We've done a lot of things that the previous person was not doing. So I recently, and got cited for it, basically there were 2, what everyone was calling berms, but they were actually the topsoil that was originally stripped from the property and piled there. When I took apart these berms, they were full of construction debris, and they basically had, I'll say, wild cherries and locusts growing through them, okay? I have since taken that out to improve it. It took us a year, almost 14 months, to find the well on this property, to start the irrigation. The irrigation hadn't probably worked for 2 to 3 years. We've now started the irrigation, okay? The report talks about some of the, so, again, I got what I bought. So basically, we're never required to put curbs on the street, okay? There was never sidewalks put in here. The existing sidewalks that run along here was never requested, or no one ever determined in the first site plan that they should be replaced, or the street curbed, okay? So what happened with this site plan, which originally was done, I'm gonna say as you would like it, he eventually got a approval of the site plan as built, okay? This fence, so the person who owned it, he became the contractor in this space. He fenced in a yard. I would like to remove that fencing, make this into a plowable parking lot, okay? I normally would put a curb there. I asked to put the curb, which was on the original site plan here, in so that people don't hit this building. If you don't want the curb there, I'll say, okay. And we were basically trying to make it, so, we have a Matt's Plumbing and Heating in here, they have a 40-yard dumpster, because they come back from their jobs, and they're bringing back old air conditioning units and everything else. So I've said to them, okay, I'll make you a dumpster pad for a 40-yard dumpster here. One of the issues of this building is it has 2 garage doors on this side, but there's no way for a modern-day tractor trailer or anything else to unload from it. So we try to create a berth that a tractor trailer can do in here. And because this building was set back, these other berths here are not loading platforms. They were, Party Rental has a straight job truck. You know, people have 16-foot straight job trucks. I figured, because these are tight in here, let me create a couple of berths that people can actually store their trucks at night, because we had the room. And that's how the site plan came to be, okay? We've gotten the irrigation going, and with that, basically, this entire side of the building basically had an invasive weed growing that was this kind of reddish thing. So we tried to kill it over time, we couldn't. We finally brought in bulldozers and ripped it out, and we replanted it, okay? At the same time, I tried to deal with what I considered a bad look of the building here, okay? So we planted plants, we planted some trees, some arborvitaes, things like that, to try to begin to replenish the property and bring it back. We've planted some other trees around and stuff. Again, it's a slow and steady kind of way of taking a property that was in total derelict and bringing it up to code and the like. So it's now been 14 months since I wanted to pave this. The variance has now, I have to go back. Whoever thought when I got the variance it would take over a year to go through the process of paving and parking. So here I stand in front of you. Tell me what you'd like me to do.
Couple questions. Karen, on the original site plan along Parkway Street, was that a bermed planting?
Well, you can see the last plan, this is the survey that was approved. It shows woods along this area.
Okay, so it wasn't a berm.
Well, it was raised, yes. You could see it was like a hump of soil.
But it
with-
wasn't required that it be bermed.
No, but there was a berm there and
These
it
are not
had woods
commercial
on
property
top
over
of
here,
it.
right? This is commercial
That
over
was,
here?
became the laundry. So this was owned by the same guy. That's who built it all. And he went,
As you can see on this plan, let's turn a little backwards on. Let me just make sure I'm correct.
right.
Yeah. See, this plan showed the stone fenced-in area where he's proposing asphalt. This plan didn't even show any parking over here or over here, which is actually, there is parking here, but this is stone. So, obviously, there has to be a site plan that's approved for these changes and the landscaping changes which were done without approval. And we really can't tell if the parking provided is adequate until we get a proper parking calculation for all the uses. I don't know, as Mr. Israel said, these are actually really loading berths. So they're,
Parking spaces for trucks.
which are
It's what we
usually considered
discussed
loading berths.
8 months ago when we said, hey, I got the extra room here. Do you think it would be a good idea to make an extra long thing? And everybody agreed. I met with you guys
I don't
before
recall
I even
that.
started this.
Okay, and the sidewalks, were there sidewalks improvements required?
Actually,
On the site plan?
the prior site plan approval required a
Right.
sidewalk. Sidewalk is there, but as I indicated, it's in pretty poor condition right now, as shown in the pictures on page 4. So if you'd like me to kind of continue going through the report, I can
You're saying the original site plan asked them to replace these sidewalks?
They asked for sidewalks.
And when was that
The plan
dated?
approved in 2009, one of the conditions for signature of the Mylar was that a sidewalk be shown. So, there's a sidewalk there, but it's in poor condition, as I said. Would you like me to continue on?
Sure.
All right, so I did go through things that I felt need to be addressed on pages 7 and 8. Does the board want me to go through those individually?
Well, have
Some-
you,
some of them are
have you gotten this report prior to today?
Yes,
Absolutely.
quite a while ago.
So if there's anything that,
I don't know, you're basically taking me through for paving the back portion of an existing parking lot and changing its cover from pervious to impervious, and the person never even did that properly to make it truly pervious. He just threw down some stone instead of creating a leaching field underneath it, to now I'm going through a full site plan review, and you're asking me to do things, so it's crazy what I'm going through now after waiting a year to get this report. That's my opinion, okay? I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything else here. I am slowly taking a piece of property that this had COs, this did not. I got COs for this. I put in an entire fire sprinkler into this building, okay? All these other uses have COs and uses. It has always had the parking that it has. No one has ever questioned this. We're now looking at this site plan as if I can do whatever I want here, okay? These are industrial buildings. Today I have Party Rental in here, tomorrow it could be Snow King, you know? That's what industrial properties are. Is it every time that a use changes, a person is subject to adding parking, subtracting parking? You know, what happens in our town now?
well, I don't think the use is what triggered this review.
Well, what triggered the review was that modifications to the site were proposed. And one of the things we had met with Mr. Israel previously on another issue, and we had said for anything in the future, we want to see parking calculations. We haven't gotten parking calculations. Like, there's not just industrial or warehouse uses here, there are other uses.
Isn't it irrelevant?
But they're all
There's
pre-existing.
there's
It's
different
already there. We're
parking.
improving the parking,
There's
Karen.
different parking.
Improving
That's why we're
calculations.
doing it. We're doing it because this parking is needed. I'm telling this particular tenant, you can no longer have a fenced-in yard, which was approved in the site plan by the town board. I want to convert it back to parking to create more parking, and now, you know, you want me to put in curbs, sidewalks, double calculations. You want me, again,
You proposed the curbing.
I propose, yes, I propose this curbing that surrounded the parking lot, because I believe Aswald should have a curb to stop on. Okay? If you don't want the curbing there, if that was the reason why I'm being brought into site plan thing, then I'll get rid of the curbing. I'll just put down
The last time we looked at
asphalt.
parking for this site was in 2009. The approved survey did not have parking calculations. I was not involved with the approved survey. I don't know, it showed 64 parking stalls. I don't know what went on there, but typically when we review a site plan, we look at parking. There are different uses in this, it's not just industrial. There's gymnasium, there's recreational, there's office. I don't know how much square footage each of these uses has at this time. I think we should, you know, before we approve anything, we should make sure the parking is sufficient for what's there.
What if it's not? What if
The parking is as much as this piece of property can handle.
you had to get a variance for impervious? There's nothing, we could get a larger variance, it's only gonna take out the green space.
So, did you want to go through each comment?
I'd prefer not to, but I might have to.
All right, so, building number 4, this one just stood out to me. There's no, had no plumbing, and now you're hooking it up to the sewer?
Well, I'm making provisions to hook it up to the sewer. The current tenant has no need for a bathroom. They're currently, we'd like to heat the place because it's good for buildings to be heated, okay? Originally, this was a moving and storage company. So the previous person brought in sewer to here, and all we're doing is, before I approve all of this, I figured I would extend it to the building. Do I have a plan to put in a bathroom today? The answer is no. Same thing with water was a discussion, and my discussion with the water department had said, you know, these two buildings have always existed. This one has a water service, it's actually fire sprinkled. They said, just bring your water over. We don't really want to bring in another main for this building. Another service, I should say.
So this area that was impervious, okay, you went to zoning and you got a variance and you put in a dry well?
I didn't do any of that because I can't get a building permit.
But you went to zoning?
Yeah, it's expired
Absolutely.
now.
March 23rd, it was approved,
They
of
didn't,
2017.
extend it,
We didn't.
the applicant.
guess
I
you're going
didn't
through
apply
this.
to get it extended because I first realized it when she wrote it in this planning report 2 weeks after it expired.
Okay. So on page 11, that shows what was there along Parkway Street and what's there now, right?
No, that shows when I cut it,
Just take it
before it
out.
was
On
planted,
bottom of
correct?
page 10 shows what it looked like previous to clearing,
Okay.
and then on the top it's showing what it looked like after it was cleared. And on the
The
bottom
berm I
of page
removed,
11 shows,
The pile of dirt I removed was probably 4 to 6 feet high.
And what's on the bottom, Karen?
on the bottom two pictures are what's there now. You know, we would have wanted something larger for some of these plantings, but since it was put in without approval, we didn't get that opportunity.
I think the board needs to, you know, decide if, you know, obviously, the applicant's trying to improve what the site looks like from what it was years ago. And I know in the past, some of this we've considered to be administrative. And, you know, he's gotten COs. So really, what's the
mean-
board's feeling on, you know, is this really a full site plan review that he needs to go through? I think that's the real question here. I mean, that's, I think, what I'm hearing.
As we've improved each building, the building department, as we do use permits, they've said, take some of the lighting. I know Karen brought out one light back here, which was existing on the building from, I guess, when it was a moving and storage, and this didn't even exist. But we've put lights above every door. Everything has begun to become dark sky compliant, things like that. There's
I
no
mean-
site lighting really on this premise through poles or anything else. They were all building mounted.
The amortization period on non-compliant lighting has expired, so anything on the site has to be compliant at this point. So, I mean, as per my site visit, there are at least 2 lights that were too high. There was one that was not full cut off. I'm not sure how high the other ones are.
That could be as simple as turning them off, and when you get it, you know,
I will gladly change, if there's well, if it's too high, I've never heard of a fixture having to be too high.
It's
These buildings
16
are,
feet from the ground to the lowest light emitting part of the fixture. That's the requirement.
so this building is 24 feet high.
How high is that? It's between 24 and 30.
Right, so that, you want me to change it to is it not a dark sky compliant fixture?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's too high.
It's just too high, but it's pre-existing,
There's
so.
also one, yeah, but it doesn't matter if it's pre-existing.
Okay.
Pre-existing
Um,
anymore.
Okay,
So there's at least one light on the back of this building that's not full cut off.
and the complaint that we have from the tenants in this building and thing, because there's kids there, is they want more light in the parking lots. And I say to them, I can't do that for you.
Yeah, it still needs to be compliant.
yeah, it's gotta be compliant.
I mean,
Add more lights.
What?
You can always apply to add more lights. That's to be dark sky compliant, that's all.
Okay,
As far as the parking lot, to me, the improvement of the area is important. I'd like to try to fast track it make it as easy as we can. It's already taken a lot of time, not all of it our fault, but whatever, let's try to move forward and get it done.
It needs a site visit, 2 at a time at least, or something, take a look at it. This is quite complicated, I would say.
I mean, it certainly looks
And,
better now,
Pick out the meat out of these.
that's for sure. And your berm was nothing more than, just push off from garbage, right?
It went to the, it didn't get reused when we took it apart, because it was full of block and full of construction debris.
I normally like berms between the roadway, but we've already got it planted, so.
But I don't think it was required when.
No, but a lot of the new stuff we do, like a mild berm.
There is a slight, I mean, it's not road level, the ground itself rises in that corner.
And it's kind of a red one, because it's planted now.
Yeah, it's required buffer area.
What's that?
It was a required buffer area.
No, we're talking about the berm. Berm,
We're just asking for more vegetation in the area.
yeah.
You've read the report, and what problems do you have with it?
Shows all of it. I don't know
Then why
why
don't
I'm
you-
being
then why
tortured.
don't
I
you
could go
state
through
what
each one
what your problem
separately.
is?
You know, the dumpsters just happened this last summer, that all of a sudden, there was a dumpster war between the buildings, that normally we would have 2 dumpsters here, one for this building, one for this building. All of a sudden, this tenant said, hey, I've been paying for your garbage, I don't wanna pay your garbage anymore. And, I
Well,
just said, guys,
bottom-
you have to get together.
Bottom line, it looks like there's too many dumpsters. to
There's
fit
5
in.
dumpsters out there now,
The
but some of them
enclosure.
are like 1-yard dumpsters, as you can see in the picture. So, do I take away more parking to create, well, I guess they're taking away
They're
parking.
taking away parking because
Oh, I
they're
see.
besides
So
the
do I
dumpster
create another
enclosure.
place for a dumpster site?
Well, again, it's hard to know because we don't know how much parking is needed.
I'm just gonna ask you, whether he's short, whether
Well, I
he's
can't
extra?
tell because I have no square footage of uses. There's no parking calculations provided. I don't know how much parking he needs.
What?
I don't know if he, can spare some loading berth areas, I don't know. This plan doesn't show, the dimensions of the stalls, the dimension of the backup aisle. There's a stall here and a stall here, which
The plan doesn't show the.
usually we would
depth and
consider
size of the
conflicting,
lots
we'd
and
wanna
things.
get rid of one.
Not the existing.
I'm sure the 10 by 20s.
If I could interject, I've gone through this list and most of your comments regarding, dimensions and some labeling and stuff like that, which is quite a bit of this, that's not a problem. There's some things on here that are specific questions for the board on the second page. But, we can go over it with Richard. I think most of the stuff is just,
Yeah, are the stalls 10 by 20s?
Yeah.
So the dumpsters, something has to happen with those, because they were just added to both sides of the enclosure, right?
That's correct. So, the question is where do we place them so that we can maybe give other people, a space? Should I just find a nook, or can I put a dumpster over here? I don't wanna put a dumpster over here, but you want me to put a dumpster over, an enclosure over here? Garbage truck can't get to it. Or I'll just have to turn to them and say, hey, guys, there's gonna be 2 dumpsters here, and everybody's gonna pay their fair share, and so be it.
Richard, I think that's something that you need to address with your tenants, because you characterized it was a dumpster war last year.
There's a lot of different uses.
So I think you need to identify what needs of your tenants, and then come back with a plan that you think works for them, and we can come back and evaluate it.
How about I just get rid of the dumpsters, and whenever dumpsters exist, they're inside the dumpster? Do I have to come back to
Inside the
the board?
They should be shown on a plan, sure.
Well, it's on there.
No.
No,
If-
it needs to comply
If
with
they
the current
comply and all of the dumpsters are within the dumpster enclosure, do I have to come back to the board?
You need to show it on a plan.
I need what shown on the plan? It's shown on the plan as a dumpster. Yeah, there.
Right here.
Right.
Richard,
Am I not?
you have to design where you want your dumpsters, and then show it to the board for their approval.
We're gonna
Okay.
get them in the existing dumpster enclosure.
So if I can get them in the existing dumping enclosure, is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Once I pave, I will stripe the parking
Run down
lot.
here. What are they?
Okay, so we made progress on two of them.
So there you go. So there are dumpster pads at this
The
site.
pads, concrete pads?
Here, we're about to create a new one here.
Right,
One existed here.
right, that's it.
That's all that exists. They're all concrete pads. You know, I just realized that this is an air conditioning unit here. We just fenced in this air conditioning unit and this it's not even shown on the plan, but there was an air conditioning unit back in these weeds. Once we undug it, I put a fence around it at the same time. So all of the visible air conditioning units are now within fences. I haven't landscaped around them.
Shall I go on?
Sure.
So, in terms of things I wanted the planning board to give some input on was, you know, about the sidewalk on Pulaski Street, what you felt about the condition of that. That was the only sidewalk that was needed, as well. Just regarding the uses, you had said, Richard, that everything had a
100% occupied.
Okay. So the sign up on the site said space was available in certain buildings.
Absolutely. I'm a realtor. Any sign that can make a person call me looking for space is how I make money.
Okay, so you're saying Kitty Fit Community Preschool has a certificate of occupancy?
They are part of Safari, that is just they have a teacher there that will take care of your 5-year-old and have a pre-K program. It's licensed by the state of New York. It's part of his program. So again, I'm gonna use the word advertising, they wanted people that know that they're coming to the pre-fit program, that it's here, okay? It's not a separate tenancy.
So as I said, I thought usually we wouldn't allow these conflicting parking stalls. So if the board has any feeling on that, please let me know.
I can gladly slide the dumpster pad back if we wish. I don't know if that affects my green space.
Well, I don't think that would solve the issue,
Why not?
which is this stall here and this stall here. When you have vehicles backing out, they can run into each other.
A person backing out here would back into the aisle and then leave.
That's the
They
same
not?
case you'd have in any parking lot.
Right, and usually, typically, we wouldn't allow stalls situated like this.
Well, but it's a built-out site with limited space. I
Well, that's why
personally
I'm
have a
asking the
problem. I
board's
don't have a
opinion.
problem with it, it's up to the board.
Which stall is she putting in?
This one and this one.
That's just a very normal geometric layout of the parking spaces.
All right, let's move on that, all right?
Okay,
I don't think it's a big issue.
okay, just, I'm asking the board. Okay, another question was, does the board want this to be administrative? Or do you want a hearing held?
Typically,
But
site
that was already
improvements
previously determined.
usually are administrative. You know, questions like the sidewalk, I'd like to go take a look and see, because pictures really don't, you know,
The
tell you.
sidewalk's a mess.
Is it?
But there's no sidewalk in front of this person, and there's no sidewalks here. There's no sidewalks in the area. So,
I'd still like to take a look.
okay, it bothers me more than you. But it doesn't have a curb on the street. Do I need a permit to put in a curb?
Let's not go there today. We're making progress.
Okay.
Did the board want parking calculations, or?
A number, it should be a number of how many are there or how many gonna be there. We should know how many are on the site.
Well, that, I mean, we can count how many are on the site. I wanted to know if you wanted to have actual parking calculations based on the
What would we
uses
do?
that are actually there.
What would we do if it was 1 or 2 short or 3 or 4 short? Say no to the landscaping and paving? I don't think we would do that.
Okay, so they don't need parking calculations.
Now, this building, you said, the front building is concrete built, where the moving and
block.
storage has been for years. You said before
Block building.
that it was not heated? It's not heated, why is there an oil tank in the back?
What do you see? So, we don't know. There's
I
an
mean,
oil tank back here, which
Yeah.
is one of
You
those
never
things.
tell me it's heated.
It may at one time have been heated. There was a pipe that went through. There was no furnace in this building
It's not even there
or
anymore.
anything else. So when we bought the building, and the funny part is that this occupant, I think, has been there. They were there
It's been there a long
for
time.
a long time. So there's no heating equipment in this building. We actually just brought natural gas to the side here to do it, to have that availability.
I mean, I hate to bring this
And
into
today,
it, but I would.
people want heated
definitely
storage,
get
so
rid of the
he's
oil
not
tank.
against me heating the building.
Yeah, no, I don't see any problem with it either, but when you said it was unheated and I see the oil tank, I mean, I would suggest that you get rid of it. I mean, I have a building in town that was non-conforming, and I've been here for 30-some-odd years, so.
If you can help me find
No.
somebody who's willing to, it's like removing none of these buildings are heated with oil.
So, as far as the landscaping, does the board want to do a site visit to determine if you're satisfied with the plantings?
Road trip.
So the, town engineer had some comments,
address those, no problem. 2 comments.
okay. The dumpster enclosed, the new dumpster area, I don't know what type of enclosure that is, that should be addressed. I guess we can reconvene after the board has gone and done the site visit.
Right, is there anything else that we need to talk about today, though? We talked about the lights, right?
Well, the applicant's engineer indicated they could address the site comments on pages 7 and 8. The board didn't want to address parking calculations.
So the only question I have is, if you don't have any intentions to doing it, why would you bring the sewer in and bring the gas in?
Because each day we try to keep improving properties. There's no reason why this doesn't, the only reason it never had sewer or water there is because no one ever wanted to pay for the improvement. So before, because the sewer manhole is here, I'm about to do this improvement here. It doesn't cost me that much to put this in and come across. I've spoken to the sewer department, they have no issue with it. When I asked so I brought gas to the building because I'd like to heat this building. Right now, the tenant does not need a bathroom. Okay, I don't know under any building code whether I need a bathroom in a space for compliance. I don't know that, but right now, this building has nothing. I asked the water department, can we bring in a service? They said it's very difficult because of where it is. They suggested that I just bring the water from this building over to this building, underground. So I may try to do that before I curb and pave this, kind of thing. When we bought these buildings, the electric for the office here came out of this panel, and maybe that's because I think the history was this building was built first, probably in the 60s, and this was the guy's office. So it was on the same meter, and then he built on this, and that became another meter, a separate electrical service. Since then, this building has been divided in half, which was done previous to me, and had those services. So we actually just upgraded all the electric in this building now to have their own meters within their own spaces and no cross things. So, understand, we try to, by improving properties, they go up in value. That's what we do. That's my job. So, I have been cleaning up the landscaping. The landscaping that, you know, is horrendous along here, nothing can live there because all of the snow plowing and all of the salt kills all the plants. So it was the recommendation of my landscaper to say, let's plant, I don't know what you call them, I call them grasses and whatever. I don't particularly like them, but he said, let's see if they live. So during the winter, they get cut down and they look like you see. During the summer, they flower and they have things.
So
and
it doesn't
whatever.
look like there's very many right now, so.
Well, let's wait a couple of months and you'll see what's there. I have nothing against landscaping. I think I've proven that to this town, okay? But, you know, this is an industrial site. It's not in plain view of anybody.
Richard, you don't have a couple months to wait.
There you go.
Just to touch on the sanitary again, that building, on the previous site plan process has, health department approval for the density flow on it, so it's not, it hasn't been considered, it's an existing building, so it was considered density.
All right, so you're gonna, Doug, you're gonna address her comments, as you mentioned before, and we're gonna take a site visit individually or in pairs. And then we'll reconvene or communicate through Karen in short order.
I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Karen, did you say you had another copy of these? I did not receive it. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Chapter 225, SECRA.
Thanks, folks.
Proposed new chapter to the town code. Okay. You're welcome, take care.
Jeff and Jeff.
Jeff and Jeff. Okay.
How's everyone
Thank you,
today?
Karen.
Mean and lean. Mean and lean.
Absolutely.
As you recall, we had the tri-board meeting a couple of months ago, and one of the things we talked about was creating a new chapter on SECRA. Since I started working for the town, we noticed some inconsistencies in how SECRA is applied, especially when you have an application that needs a special permit, a site plan, and variances. And with Jeff Seaman now here, we've taken steps, working with Don Thomas, attorney for the zoning board, to coordinate SECRA review. And all that's done internally through just professional interaction between departments and Jeffrey and staff. What we're attempting to do is codify that, to help educate the public, educate the applicants, educate the boards on what the SECRA process is, when is a type 2 action, when is a type 1 action, when you coordinate, when don't you coordinate, what is a type 1 action, that sort of thing. And there are SECRA regs and there's a SECRA handbook that explains all this, and it seems very easy, but in reality, it's not. And what we're attempting to do with this new Chapter 225 is make it much more transparent for everybody, so everybody becomes more educated. And going forward, we have a much more streamlined and understandable process. So that's the whole purpose and intent of the new chapter that we have going for you. We modeled this after Southampton. It works well there. This has been tailored for Riverhead, though. They have their own issues that they needed to address, and we have our own unique issues that we need to address. And I'm going to turn it over to Jeffrey and walk you through this new law. And the supervisor's looking for your feedback, she's looking for feedback from the zoning board. So that's why we're here today.
Thank you. Well, not to take up too much of the board's time, but if you have a copy of the proposed legislation.
I have copies if you didn't bring.
I can
I read everything online.
walk you into the more salient points. First, this secret regulation, which models itself,
How that happened, but I haven't.
it models itself after the state regulations, except at a local level. And that gives us the opportunity to better classify the type 1 and the type 2 actions. And the effort there, as Jefferson explained, is to streamline the process for the applicants and for each of the boards, so that there's really no confusion as to what we're looking for. Again, as a reminder, a type 1 just means that we get more information on the full environmental assessment form, and we coordinate among the internal boards so that everyone's aware through the paperwork, which will be administered through the planning department, what's going on with the application. I think it's actually better for the applicant and their consultants as well, because everyone will know where they stand from day one. So I'd like to really bring your attention to section 225.11, which are the type 1 actions, and 225.12, the type 2 actions. So we decided that, working with the town attorney's office, that these would probably be the most appropriate type 1 actions that would be applicable to Riverhead. But we would appreciate your input and your experience to take a look at this and think about what other types of applications have come before you.
What
that-
about single residence?
No single residence, no, they go right to
Short
type 2.
environmental form?
Yep, simple form, type
I
2.
mean, they have to do.
Well, everyone has to.
They're not type 2, they're unlisted.
Right, well, they're either gonna be type 1, type 2, or unlisted.
If you're not on a type 1 list or a type 2 list, they're automatically classified as unlisted. And the one thing about type 1 actions is the big difference is over unlisted, type 1 mandates the coordination between all involved agencies.
For example, item number 9, new residential apartments, condominiums, or cooperatives of 20 units or more would be a type 1. We would coordinate with the health department, with the water department, perhaps with the zoning board, if there are variances. So that gives us a little bit better control internally to review the application.
Hey Jeff, quick question. Sure. Number 7, within a critical area of environmental concern or within critical area design designated to protect cultural, historical, rock garden, blah, blah, blah. What is the critical area? How do we determine what critical area is?
Okay, good question. Critical areas are identified by New York State DEC. So, for example, the Peconic Estuary, it's a critical environmental area. Pine Barrens, critical environmental areas. And I think in Riverhead, that's predominantly the two key ones. However, maybe more specific to Riverhead would be number 10. Actions involving commercial or multifamily use within the town of Riverhead Historic District or within 500 feet of the district. Now, that would not, that can be classified in the state's list as a type 1, but we wanted to make it clear that in Riverhead, that would be a type 1, and that would reflect the historic district, or anything within 500 feet because of potential impacts that would flip that way. Again, it doesn't mandate an environmental impact statement is needed. It just mandates that coordinated review is needed.
In the past, we've had, when we get to the type 1s, we've had scoping. I didn't see anything that talked about that.
Well, what we would do if a determination of significance deems that an impact statement is necessary, under 225-8, there would be an EIS preparation.
Right.
And once the lead agency is established, under a type 1 action,
Right.
you can or cannot hold a scoping session that is.
I think you should put it in.
Well, it's,
And
okay,
then it could be an either or.
either or, it's not mandatory, right? Okay.
Because sometimes the other thing, question I have was like, not a full EIS, but a partial EIS.
Yep.
Where you have only, there's certain things, like you get a project and you're just really worried about the traffic.
And that's what we
And it's
wanna
a type
focus
one.
on.
limited
We
scope.
just want you to do traffic on them, you don't have to do anything else.
Hey, Jeff, I'm sorry, I have a little concern here with number 11. Commercial expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use within any zoning use district. So if the modern snack bar wanted to put an addition on, or any other non-conforming business, they'd be listed as a type 1 action.
Yes.
I don't know if I see the wisdom in that.
So the purpose of that is to coordinate, again, the key is to coordinate the review between the zoning board or town board and the planning boards.
That's really the main threshold, Ed, in terms of type 1 versus unlisted. It mandates that review gets coordinated, so all three boards have an opportunity to look at the issues together, not individually, because that does not help out.
So
an
it's not
applicant.
gonna create an undue burden on business people as far as financially?
They fill out a 10-page form instead of the 3-page form. And really the key there, and this is why it's important that it's a local law, it allows our boards to be aware that this pre-existing non-conforming commercial use, because it was, and here's the dilemma we get faced with, it was supposed to be eliminated under the master plan, the comprehensive plan. So when I review it, I say, well, it's in conflict with the comprehensive plan, even though we know it's a pre-existing non-conforming use and a mild expansion, and it's probably not a headache to anyone. But by putting it in the type 1, I make sure that the zoning board is aware of that, and the planning board, and sometimes the town board, if a special permit is involved as well, or would be in this case, that they're coordinating that. That's all.
So in 10B,
I think, but going on further, and going on to what Ed is saying, we have this case now, Greg and I are gonna be calling an applicant about this after this meeting. If an applicant is an unlisted action, the board has the right to either coordinate review or not coordinate review. And we understand we're trying to be pro-business next expedite applications. When the lead agency decides not to coordinate review, for example, if this case is a special permit, I want my special permit, I want my secret determination. I want to move my application along. He'll go through, get a special permit without coordinating with you, get a secret determination. He thinks he can take that secret determination, go to the health department and start constructing a new sanitary system for this new proposed expansion. He can't, because you guys, the planning board, also are an involved agency. You have to issue site plan approval. You're gonna have to do secret all over again. He can't do any work as part of that special permit and that secret determination until you've done your site plan approval. So this rush to
Well,
do,
special permits really just allow them to move forward and give us a site plan.
But if he makes that application and we can review his full environmental assessment form, not the short one, because that's really what this means, we might be able, in the early stage, to say our determination of significance is a negative deck.
and he can
So
do
he
secret
can
at
go
one
ahead and
stop
move
instead of
forward
having
with
to do
everybody.
two steps.
It's advantageous
I
in most
believe it is,
cases,
yes,
probably.
yes, it's advantageous, because now I have the 10 pages of information,
Right.
And we
and
can
it's
issue a
been
neg deck and then
circulated
it's
to
posted two
all
separate
our
neg
internal
determinations.
agencies for comment, and everyone will probably weigh in on it quickly. That was part of that tri-board outcome. How do we exchange this information? The other thought I had on the type 2s, personally, and I haven't discussed this with Bob and Jefferson to any great length, are the farmsteads. And, you know, we sort of have that whole farm stand quick review process, and we might want to look at it on limit of size of the farm stand and square footage. Because typically, agriculture does not fall into any category of secret to really make it a type 1. It's almost always a type 2, but we have that farm stand code.
What if
That's a
it's-
little gray area.
what if it's agricultural property being converted to solar?
well, depending upon the size, it would be an automatic type 1 under the disturbance of greater
It
than
doesn't
10
say,
acres.
it doesn't say solar in here, does it?
No, but I think what we have stated, I think what Bob put in is that, that the type 1s would also follow all of the
Type 1 list. that's in the
type
secret
1
regs.
list of what DEC publishes in the handbook
And solars.
under 617.
And solars.
Not solar specific, but
Site
disturbance of 10 acres or more, which almost all solar is, except for on-site use solar, would require
Type 1 action.
action.
So then they would have to do the archaeological examination too.
Everything, yep, everything that you would scope out in a typical EIS, if that's what you called for. But that would be identified on their long environmental assessment form. And so far, all of the solar that we've seen, with the exception of the one that went up at the golf course at Long Island National, all fell into that category because of the size of the area that they need.
Too small. It wasn't 10 acres.
Right, it was 20,000 square
It was
feet.
just for on-site anyway.
Yes, on-site use.
So the application's basically a little longer, but it actually saves the applicant
Time.
Because it gives us the information up front, and
You don't
it
have to keep
doesn't
going
go
back.
back and forth with, well, what do they mean by this, and we'll see how it goes. And obviously, like everything else, it's gonna take time, once this is adopted, for people to kind of get up to speed. There may be additional amendments, there may be type 1s and 2s that are added or removed, depending upon how the flow of this goes. But really, we wanted to share this with you today to get your input, and we think it will help the applicants focus a little bit more clearly on this, so that we don't go back and forth with so many discussions, asking for what we want and really sometimes not getting it.
Do you have any, I mean, I like the whole concept, my question would be, do you have any time frame that a department would have to review something initially and say, well, I think this is okay, however, I have a problem with this, you know, so that you can, you know, in other words, it can go somewhere and then get, you know, just get stalled.
If everything is running according to the real secret schedule, that applicant should know where he stands in 20 days, maybe 30. We have to do lead agency coordinated review, and we need that 30-day window, maybe it's a month. But that doesn't stop the process.
No.
We're just waiting for feedback. He can continue to roll forward with it.
Once the EIS is submitted, there's a
Assisted living would come into,
Starts.
what, 9?
review.
Anything that was sizable and that we've almost had in a couple of times.
Yes, if it were new. Or if it was a conversion, it would fall under number 8.
The other thing this law does is it officially designates the planning department as the clearinghouse for SECR. So if there's any questions regarding from SECR regarding any of the boards, it would come to our department.
Where does it say that?
In the beginning, where it mentions
This is
management.
225-5, Department of Land Management will be the town clearinghouse lead agency designation. It means we're the clearinghouse, that doesn't mean that we're lead agency.
25-5 applicability?
Yeah, under subsection C. You know subsection C?
Yeah, but
Well,
all
it's 6.
6.
Oh, I'm sorry, 225-6, I'm
I'm
sorry. Yep.
Is that what you're called now?
For land management.
That's your plan.
That's one of the 3 departments,
Principally responsible for carrying.
planning, building, and fire marshal.
Funding. We're gonna do funding. Or approved in action.
Because that is what I missed when I did
Yeah.
So what happens next?
If you want time to review this, digest it, and then get back, and we can bring it back in the next, meeting, and you can show me what your issues, recommendations are. We can formulate a response back to the supervisor.
Sure.
Yeah. We haven't scheduled the public hearing yet, so just wanted to share it with you.
Waiting for comments, right?
Yes.
Try it, if it doesn't work, we
Yep.
can fix it again.
Exactly.
Okay, you got me.
Think about it. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is number
Thank
4, wetland inventory mapping.
George doesn't wanna come up, but George is part of this. As you recall, we came to you several months ago to talk about updating our wetland inventory, and this is gonna require some money. And we did some research. If you remember, back when Larry Oxman cleared the Sabre property, and it came before this board, we got $75,000, as a result of that. And I did my research, and we do in fact have the $75,000 and still sitting in an account. Back in 2012, you approved a resolution for Sabre. I'm gonna read what the condition says. That the applicant shall pay to the town of Riverhead $75,000 for the restoration or remediation of wetlands as determined by the town of Riverhead. The planning board will be forwarding a letter to the town board urging the aforementioned money to be used for the property stated above. What we're hoping that you do is, amend that and clarify that to allow us to use that $75,000 for doing the wetland inventory. Because right now, we have no money to do it outside of the
Yeah, but
$75,000.
George found it. George found the money.
It's here, we have it. Okay.
But the resolution
It doesn't
reads
say that.
restoration,
Right.
so we would like to have that, the board consider expanding that into,
Doing the inventory.
How far is the 75 gonna get us?
Well, there was a proposal back in 2013 from a person who's qualified to do this kind of work. He was willing to do it for $250 in wetlands. There are, if I recall correctly, when Joe was here still, I went through the files, and I think I came up with something like 110 wetlands that were between a half to 1 acre in size that hadn't been properly inventoried. So, $25,000 at that time. I mean, I gave a proposal to Jeff. He can find somebody that's less expensive, but it's not gonna require the whole $75,000.
Oh, so that's the answer, we can get it done within that.
Oh, yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't. If somebody were to go out and they would charge $250 a wetland to go in and do the inventory.
That's cheap.
I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Are those identified already, George? The 100 or
Well,
110?
we use the ones that were identified in the map back in 1979.
Mhm.
Those are the sites that we've already identified. And you know, Joe, you go to the file, and they're labeled either not a wetland, NAW,
Okay.
or less than a wetland, less than
Less
1
than-
acre in
yeah.
size.
Right.
So what I did is I went through the file, and
Okay.
they were approximated.
Okay, so what I'm driving is that we can show the person that's hired where they are
The general area, yeah.
in general.
Yes, yes.
Negotiate with the guys.
You know, what I would suggest would
Get a-
be
get a ballpark.
changing of the-
Yeah, of course.
changing the resolution, I would make it, I suggest that you would make it like generic, that instead of the wording here, would be dedicated towards the restoration or remediation of wetlands. That we've had discussions, Jeffrey and myself and Jeff, $75,000, as you know, Joe, is not gonna do anything. You have,
Restoration,
Yeah.
we have to construct,
He
or,
was gonna use it for Phragmites removal, I think from a wetland at Epcal, if I'm not mistaken at the time, when we were discussing this 4 years ago. And that $75,000 can be really used to, really protect the smaller wetlands that we didn't do back in 1980. And you could word the resolution to the effect that the $75,000 would be used for the protection and preservation of
Wet.
freshwater wetlands, and that would cover everything. You could use it for restoration projects or, like the proposed wetland inventory.
Sure it's still there?
Hey, George,
oh, that's
There's no wetlands on the bicycle path, you're not trying to skim the money, are you?
No way.
I guess they've all been. Dick, do we need a resolution, amend the resolution itself to do that?
So that's my question, can we do that? Can we change that resolution
Well, it should be more than 75,000. Yeah, I mean, it should be more than 75,000. There, all that.
Certainly, it takes a resolution to amend a resolution. I mean, that's a
6
general
years.
principle. Then the second question is whether you're allowed to amend this resolution.
Yes. This condition number 23.
It was a site plan, so as long as you don't change any of the obligations of the party to the resolution, I think you could change it. In other words, they don't have any claim to a right in how this money is spent, because it doesn't affect their particular site, other than that it came from their site.
Right, okay.
To reflect a remediation issue. If it said that you were gonna remediate something on their site, then I think you have to go back to them. But I think that George's suggestion,
Just to amend this resolution with the language? For protection or restoration or use for updated town.
George is bringing to my attention a letter from then Deputy Town Attorney Duffy in 2012. Enclosed, find a check payable to the town of Riverhead as payment for the restoration or remediation of wetlands. So it was very generic, and that was the understanding. So I think the check was a settlement of the litigation, which got reflected in the resolution, not because it was part of the site plan approval process.
Right.
Other than that the litigation had to be settled before the resolution was gonna.
So we could,
Does the money still,
We could put
does it
together a
still,
resolution for your next meeting.
Yeah.
That,
Yep.
that
Yeah.
would accept.
75 exists?
Yep, exists, yep.
And we could recite.
Amazing.
the money's
I'm
been
sure there's
paid.
been a lot of attacks at it.
We'll write
Somebody
Or
missed the boat
in
there.
order to find the appropriate wetland for restoration, we need to do the inventory to find the right one.
The removal of Phragmites, is that done manually, or is it done by chemical, or how do they remediate
There's
Phragmites?
usually a two-step process, mechanical and then herbicide.
Okay. And do they
And then
replant
do it
with
again.
Spartina grass or something like that, or?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll come back if you
It'll
just-
come back usually if you,
Yeah.
you know, the other is to flood it with enough salt water in the mix that you burn the plant out naturally, and then the Spartina should come up by itself, but.
It probably has an
But,
effect
but
on
as
the-
they decay and they build up their base of mud from the rhizomes, they raise their feet up out of the salt water, and they're tough to catch.
Mhm. Thank you.
okay.
Fast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, no public hearings today. Any comments on the resolutions? Anyone have any comments on resolutions?
No, I just made a comment to Jeff on the first resolution. I don't believe that Crow's Nest is in Wading River. I believe it's in Wading Hollow.
Crow's Nest is in Reeves Beach.
We have
which is
Reeves
in-
Park.
Yeah, I think it's actually
Riverhead.
Riverhead.
Yeah.
I think it's that Crow's Nest. Is there another one in Wading River?
No,
Hey, Jeffrey?
there's no, I know where the site is.
Question
no,
about
Crow's
Crow's
Nest
Nest
Reeves
and
Beach,
Reeves
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was,
I think they're saying it's
Ever-
not even Wading Hollow,
Good
it's
job, George.
Riverhead.
Riverhead.
Keep up the good work.
Okay. So we'll change that
Yeah, that's fine.
with a.
I also had a question on that one also. Now, it says it's being replaced with timber. Is it actually wood?
Yes.
It is? Is it treated?
No.
Okay, it's not
No.
treated. Okay, that was my question.
The DEC doesn't permit that any longer.
That was my
That
question.
was the
Thank you.
first one, Joe?
Can I ask, I'll ask the question after the meeting.
Just before you get, because I have a final approval resolution on for Eagle Auto Mall, if you guys have any questions on it. It's been a while since we've seen the application. There were really just some minor modifications that needed to be made, as per the Vinnie Gaudiello's comments and the fire marshal comments. They've complied with them. I did put conditions in here in further conversations with the fire marshal, just to clarify the fire access road from Old Country Road to the warehouse in the back. But there was nothing really significant between preliminary approval and final. But if you had any questions, I have a copy of the plan.
I actually had another question on number 5. Hey, Dick? Before we get going here. Hey, Dick?
Sorry.
A quick question on resolution number 33, the unmerger. We're not setting any kind of precedent by taking a substandard lot and creating two substandard lots?
Actually, you said it wasn't an unmerger, it was a subdivision.
Yeah, it's a subdivision.
Subdivision?
Yeah, it's not an unmerger. That was,
Okay.
Wait, the one you heard today for the
Yes.
public hearing?
Yeah.
So,
You should cross out unmerger.
this is the little complicated thing. We have an unmerger section that says if you're the person who merged it and it suits the character of the neighborhood and it's not less than half the size, you can come in and just ask that it be unmerged. So you could get up to half the size without going to the ZBA, but you had to be the person that merged it. These people bought it merged, so they don't qualify for that automatic half the size
Okay.
unmerger. So it's an actual subdivision. Whether they can get through the ZBA is up to the ZBA, and then if the ZBA buries it, you then would be obligated to apply
Okay.
the zoning dimensions that the zoning board grants.
Okay.
The question that came up during the discussion about holding the hearing open, I'm not sure you can close the hearing because if the zoning board hasn't acted, because you don't have an application that's validly before you, because if they need 80,000 square feet and they've got 12, and the zoning board hasn't said that's okay, how could you close the hearing?
Right.
You wouldn't have any evidence before you to permit
Okay.
what you'd allow, so.
Why bother having the hearing?
Well, you said that they were
But
gonna
yeah,
have
there
it.
is, I mean,
Concurrent.
the hearing's gonna be scheduled, I believe it's June 7th, so I mean, there are, 6 or 7 weeks which they can make
So
up.
if they haven't, then we have to leave the hearing open.
What you do is you just pick an adjourn date on the hearing and leave it open.
And I will, if the board wants, just to clarify, I'll remove any language that mentions unmerger
Yeah.
in any
Yeah,
resolution,
yeah.
just so that we're clear that it's a
Yeah,
subdivision
yeah.
application.
Make a motion to move resolution number 29 of the Riverhead Planning Board, which is chapter 219 for Diane Manica and Daniel McGee. So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 29, chapter 219, as amended for the location. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved. Number 2.
I'll move number 2018, resolution number 30, which is the application by Aldi's to do some expansion.
What's the date?
Date?
Public hearing date.
The public hearing date is next, I believe it's not less, it's not
May?
less,
May
yeah,
3rd, I
May.
The next 7 o'clock meeting.
3rd day of May.
Second the
7 o'clock.
motion?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 30 for Sabre Aldi's expansion, scheduling a public hearing for May 3rd. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution's approved. Number 3.
I'll move resolution 31, chapter 219 of Julie Satro and Stuart Elliott to approve a 219 application for closed demolition. So moved.
Second the motion?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 31 for chapter 219. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution's approved. Number 4.
Number 32, 2018, resolution granting final site plan approval for the Site Plan Act, Eagle Auto Mall.
Second the motion?
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 32 for final site plan approval, Eagle Auto Mall. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution's approved. Number 5.
I'll move 33, Osuna Ivkovitz. Resolution to schedule a public hearing for June 7th on a subdivision application. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 33 as amended for a subdivision, to schedule a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's approved. Okay, any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Okay. Minutes of April 5th for approval?
I'll make that motion, approve the minutes of April 5th.
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of April 5th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next meeting date is May 3rd, 7 PM. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'm sorry, I dropped it.
sent all of you a copy of the notice of adoption for the new lighting law for 3,000 degree Kelvin.